ladies and gentlemen, everyone, let me begin with a simple but powerful statement. Never in your life compare yourself to others. Not because you're less than them, and not because you're more, but because you are unique, and comparison is the thief of joy. We live in a world where social media highlights everyone's best moments. We see success, luxury, beauty, and talent everywhere. And without even realizing it, we start questioning our own journey. Why don't I look like that? Why am I not there yet? Why does success come so easily to them? But here's the truth. You are on your own path. Your story, your timing, your battles, your strengths, they are not meant to mirror someone else's. Comparison distracts us from what really matters: growth, purpose, and peace. When you constantly compare yourself, you plant seeds of insecurity and self-doubt. But when you focus on your own path, you begin to bloom. You don't know what others are dealing with behind the scenes. You may envy their chapter 20 while you're still on chapter 3. That's unfair, to you and to them. Instead of comparing, be inspired. Learn from others, appreciate their wins, but never let it diminish your own worth. Because what you bring to the world is something only you can give. So today, I urge you, look in the mirror and see someone worthy. Someone growing. Someone becoming. Your only competition is who you were yesterday. Never in your life compare yourself. Your time is coming. Trust the process. Stay your course and shine in your own light. When you compare yourself to others, you unknowingly hand over your happiness to something external and uncontrollable. It's like chasing a moving target. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone who seems to have more, do more, or be more. And the moment you begin measuring your worth based on someone else's progress, you start ignoring the beauty and value of your own path. Think about it. When you achieve something great, and then immediately see someone who's achieved more, your accomplishment suddenly feels smaller, even though it isn't. That's not because your success lost its value, but because comparison poisoned your perspective. You were happy a moment ago, proud and fulfilled, until you let someone else's highlight reel dictate how you should feel. Comparison also clouds your vision. It makes you so focused on what others are doing that you lose track of your own goals, dreams, and milestones. You begin chasing someone else's version of success instead of defining your own. This leads to a constant cycle of dissatisfaction, never feeling good enough because you're using someone else's story as your measuring stick. What we often forget is that every person is on a different timeline. Some bloom early, some bloom later. Some take straight roads, others take winding paths. But each journey is valid. Each one has its own purpose. And when you spend your energy watching someone else's journey unfold, you miss the magic that's unfolding in yours. Joy, fulfillment, peace. These come from within, not from comparison. The more you compare, the more you rob yourself of the gratitude and confidence that come from recognizing your own growth and efforts. So protect your joy fiercely. Keep your eyes on your own path. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small, because your journey deserves your full attention, not your doubt. Every person on this planet is born with a distinct set of talents, experiences, dreams, and challenges. There has never been, and will never be, another you. That alone makes you incredibly valuable. Yet, so many of us fall into the trap of comparison because we forget this simple truth. We are not meant to be the same. Your life is a custom-designed journey. The timing of your breakthroughs, the lessons you need to learn, the people you'll meet, and the obstacles you'll overcome, all of it is tailored to shape you into who you're meant to become. Trying to force your path to look like someone else's is like planting a sunflower and expecting it to bloom like a rose. Both are beautiful, but they grow in different ways, at different times, and under different conditions. It's easy to look at someone else's life and think they're ahead, or that they've figured it out. But you don't know what's behind their smile, what sacrifices they've made, or what silent battles they're fighting. Just because their path looks clearer doesn't mean it's meant for you. What works for one person may completely derail another because our blueprints are different. Your strengths are your own. Maybe you're a quiet thinker in a noisy world. Maybe your creativity flows in a way that's unconventional or misunderstood. Maybe you're still discovering what makes you come alive. And that's okay. There's no deadline for finding your power. And just because you're still learning or growing doesn't make you less worthy. In fact, it makes you courageous, because growth requires patience and self-trust. Society often pressures us to conform, to follow a timeline, achieve certain things by a certain age, or fit into boxes that don't suit us. But greatness doesn't come from imitation. It comes from authenticity. When you honor your uniqueness and trust your process, you begin to unlock a life that's fulfilling, not just impressive. You were never meant to copy someone else's script. You were meant to write your own story, in your own voice, with your own colors. And that story, in all its ups and downs, will always be more powerful than any comparison. Social media shows highlights, not the whole story. Don't base your self-worth on filtered glimpses. In today's digital age, social media has become a window into the lives of others. But what we often forget is that it's not a clear window. It's heavily edited, filtered, and carefully staged. The photos you see, the success stories you read, the luxurious lifestyles that flash across your screen, they are only highlight reels, not the full reality. People rarely post their failures. They don't share the sleepless nights, the rejections, the doubts, or the moments when they felt completely lost. What you see online is a curated version of their life, often polished to perfection. And when you compare your full, unfiltered reality to someone else's edited version, it's not just unfair, it's destructive. You begin to question your own progress. You wonder why your life doesn't look as exciting, why your body doesn't match theirs, why your job isn't as glamorous, or why your relationships don't seem as happy. But the truth is, you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's best scenes, and that will always leave you feeling like you're not enough. This constant exposure to perfection creates an illusion. It tricks your mind into believing that success must look a certain way, that happiness must be shown with likes and shares, and that if your life isn't picture perfect, then you're somehow failing. But life doesn't work that way. Real life is messy, complicated, and unpredictable. And that's what makes it meaningful. The danger of social media comparison is that it silently chips away at your self-esteem. You start living not for your own fulfillment, but for validation. You begin to measure your worth in double taps and comments instead of genuine inner growth. You may even start to suppress your own journey just because it doesn't look impressive enough to post. But your life is not a performance. It's a journey of learning, loving, failing, growing, and evolving. And none of that needs to be compared to a stranger's post. Instead of letting social media make you feel less than, use it as a reminder to stay grounded. Celebrate your real moments, not for show, but for the truth they carry. Remember, behind every perfect post is a real person with struggles and flaws, just like you. Don't lose yourself in the illusion. Your self-worth is not determined by your online presence. It's built from your character, your resilience, and your journey that no camera can fully capture. One of the biggest mistakes we make when we compare ourselves to others is assuming that their lives are perfect just because we can't see their pain. But the truth is, everyone struggles. Yes, everyone. Even the people who seem to have it all together. People often wear masks, not to deceive, but to protect themselves. They may smile in public and cry in private. They may succeed on the outside while battling storms on the inside. You don't see the anxiety behind their confidence, the loneliness behind their popularity, or the past traumas behind their strength. And yet, we look at their lives and assume they are better than us, simply because their pain is invisible. It's important to understand that struggles are part of being human. No one is exempt. No amount of money, fame, beauty, or achievement can shield a person from heartbreak, fear, self-doubt, or loss. Everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Some are healing from childhood wounds. Others are carrying burdens of failure, rejection, or pressure. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. When you compare your life to someone else's, you're comparing your reality, with all its known flaws and pain, to an incomplete picture. You're seeing only the surface of their life, not the depth. You see the polished product, not the private process. And in doing so, you may judge yourself too harshly while placing others on an unrealistic pedestal. Instead of comparing, try to cultivate empathy. Understand that the person you envy might be longing for something you already have: peace, love, authenticity, or resilience. Everyone's life comes with its own unique set of challenges, and no one escapes them. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply living your story, with all the lessons it was meant to bring you. So the next time you start feeling like others have it easier, remember, you don't know their full story, just as they don't know yours. Be gentle with yourself. Honor your experiences. And never assume you're alone in your struggles. Because in truth, we're all climbing our own mountains, one step at a time. Comparison may seem harmless at first, just a glance at someone else's progress, appearance, or lifestyle. But over time, it becomes a silent destroyer of confidence. What begins as casual observation often turns into a toxic habit that feeds your insecurities and crushes your self-esteem. The moment you start measuring your value against someone else, you unintentionally plant seeds of self-doubt. You start questioning your own worth. Am I good enough? Why am I not where they are? What am I doing wrong? These questions don't lead to growth. They lead to self-criticism, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. Insecurity doesn't come from not being capable. It comes from focusing too much on what others have, instead of appreciating what you already hold inside. The more you compare, the more you begin to see yourself as lacking, even when you're not. You forget your achievements, your resilience, your growth, and your potential, all because you're too busy looking outward instead of inward. Comparison also builds unrealistic expectations. You begin to pressure yourself to move faster, achieve more, or change who you are, just to keep up. But this race is imaginary and exhausting. You were never meant to walk someone else's path, and forcing yourself to meet standards that don't reflect your truth will only leave you burned out and unfulfilled. This pressure can become paralyzing. You stop taking risks because you're afraid you won't measure up. You delay your goals because you feel you're too far behind. You become hesitant to celebrate your victories because they don't seem as big as someone else's. And over time, that hesitation turns into self-sabotage, where you start believing that no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough. But the truth is, you are enough, right now, as you are. You don't need to match anyone else's timeline or mimic their success to be valuable. In fact, your power lies in your authenticity, not your ability to compete. Comparison distorts reality. It shrinks your sense of self and inflates your fears. The longer you engage in it, the harder it becomes to recognize your own light. So step away from the urge to compare and give yourself permission to be proud. Proud of how far you've come, of what you're building, and of who you're becoming. In a world that glorifies fast success, instant results, and social comparison, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind if your life doesn't follow a conventional timeline. But here's a truth that many people forget. Your journey is valid, no matter how slow, messy, or unconventional it may be. Every person's path through life is uniquely shaped by their background, choices, circumstances, and dreams. Some people find their purpose early. Others take years of exploration to discover what truly fulfills them. Some achieve big milestones quickly. Others grow gradually, learning powerful lessons in the quiet, unseen moments. There is no single formula for success, happiness, or fulfillment. And there never will be. When you compare your progress to someone else's, you risk invalidating your own growth. You might start thinking, I should be further along by now, or why is it taking me so long? But these thoughts come from a false belief that there's a universal timeline everyone is supposed to follow. The truth is, there isn't. There is only your timeline, and it is enough. What often goes unnoticed is that some of the most remarkable people in the world didn't follow a straight path. Many of them failed repeatedly, took detours, reinvented themselves, or started over later in life. Their journeys were filled with uncertainty, setbacks, and delays. But those very challenges shaped their character and deepened their strength. The twists and turns didn't make their journeys invalid. They made them meaningful. You may not be where you thought you'd be by now. You may be facing challenges that others can't see. You may be building something slowly, one difficult step at a time. But that doesn't make you less. It makes you real. And it means you're growing, even if that growth is happening quietly behind the scenes. So don't let the world rush you. Don't measure your path with someone else's ruler. Your journey might look different, and that's a beautiful thing. Because different doesn't mean wrong. It means you're living authentically, in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. Every step you've taken has brought you wisdom, resilience, and clarity. Every delay has taught you patience. Every detour has shown you something new. So honor your path, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, even when no one else understands it, because it's yours, and it's unfolding exactly as it should. There's a fine but powerful line between inspiration and intimidation. Seeing someone else succeed, shine, or thrive can be uplifting, or it can feel discouraging, depending on how you interpret it. The key is to shift your mindset from envy to learning, from insecurity to growth. When you see someone doing well, instead of thinking, they're better than me, try asking, what can I learn from them? Their journey can offer guidance, not a comparison. Their success can light your path, not overshadow it. You are not in a competition with them. You are on a separate mission entirely. The problem arises when admiration turns into self-judgment. You start seeing someone else's achievements as a mirror reflecting your shortcomings, instead of as a window showing you what's possible. You begin to shrink yourself instead of rising up. But the truth is, someone else's success does not take away from your potential. The world is abundant. There is room for all of us to win. Think of it this way. You can admire a sunset without wishing you were the sky. You can listen to beautiful music without thinking your voice doesn't matter. The beauty in others doesn't reduce your own. It simply reminds you of what's possible when someone leans into their passion and purpose. So, rather than feeling intimidated, let it fuel you. It's important to remember that every person you admire started somewhere. They had doubts, they struggled, they faced rejection. What you see today is the result of growth, consistency, and resilience, not perfection. And just as they rose through their journey, so can you, in your own time, in your own way. So celebrate others without questioning your own worth. Use their success as a sign that you too can break through, rise higher, and achieve great things. Let it stretch your vision, not shrink your confidence. You are not meant to feel small in the presence of greatness. You are meant to be reminded that you belong there too. Being inspired is about seeing someone else's light and realizing you have your own. It's about saying, if they can do it, maybe I can too. So lift others up and let them lift you. Not in comparison, but in collective growth. One of the most damaging effects of comparison is the false belief that progress should be smooth, constant, and predictable. You might look at someone else's journey and assume they're always moving forward, always winning, always succeeding. But the truth that often goes unspoken, is that real growth is messy, non-linear, and full of ups and downs. You will have seasons of rapid growth, moments when everything clicks and you feel unstoppable. And then there will be seasons of stillness, confusion, and even what may feel like failure. But those down moments don't mean you've lost your way. In fact, they are just as important as the highs. Because progress isn't just about the results. It's also about what you learn when things aren't going as planned. Think of growth like the ocean. It moves in waves, sometimes crashing forward, sometimes retreating. But even when the tide pulls back, it's never truly moving backward. It's gathering strength. And so are you. The setbacks you face, the pauses you take, the struggles you overcome. They're not signs that you're failing. They're part of your evolution. When you compare your journey to someone else's, you may only see their current wave of success, not the quiet years of effort behind it. You don't see the tears, the doubts, the countless hours of practice, or the times they nearly gave up. You're looking at one moment in their timeline and using it to judge your entire story. And that will always leave you feeling behind. But here's what matters. You're still showing up. You're still trying. You're still growing, even if no one can see it yet. Every lesson you learn in silence, every time you pick yourself up after a fall, every small win that no one claps for. It's all part of your journey. It's all shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. You don't need to rush. You don't need to be on anyone else's schedule. Growth is not a race. It's a personal journey that unfolds in seasons. Some are for blooming, others for resting. Some are for pushing forward, and some are for simply surviving. All of them matter. All of them count. So instead of getting discouraged when progress feels slow or uneven, remind yourself you are still moving forward, even if it doesn't look the way you expected. One of the most powerful truths you can embrace is this. There is no one else on this planet exactly like you. Not one person has your exact combination of talents, thoughts, experiences, and dreams. That makes you irreplaceable. Not in a proud or boastful way, but in a deeply human, deeply personal way. When you compare yourself to others, you forget your uniqueness. You try to fit into molds that were never made for you. You start doubting your abilities because they don't look like someone else's. But just because your gift is different doesn't mean it's lesser. It just means it's yours. Think of the world like a symphony. Each instrument has a role to play. The violin doesn't try to sound like the trumpet. The drums don't compete with the piano. They each contribute their own voice, and together they create music. In the same way, your voice, your ideas, and your presence bring something valuable that no one else can replicate. Your perspective matters. Your struggles have taught you lessons that someone else needs to hear. Your background, no matter how ordinary or unusual it may seem, has shaped a way of thinking, feeling, and creating that is unlike anyone else's. When you silence your voice because you think it's not as powerful as someone else's, the world loses something beautiful. Because no one can do what you're meant to do, the way you're meant to do it. We live in a world that often celebrates sameness, trends, templates, and standards that make people feel they have to conform to be seen. But true impact comes from authenticity. It comes from leaning into your individuality, even when it feels risky. It comes from honoring your own path, even when others don't understand it. You don't need to be louder, richer, more popular, or more polished to matter. You just need to be real, and to believe that who you are is already enough. So instead of looking outward and asking, how can I be more like them? Ask yourself, how can I be more of who I truly am? Because when you live in alignment with your true self, you don't just shine, you inspire others to do the same. Confidence isn't about being the best in the room, having the most followers, or being more successful than others. True confidence comes from within, from knowing who you are, accepting your flaws, celebrating your strengths, and walking your path without needing validation from the outside world. When you constantly compare yourself to others, your confidence becomes fragile. It starts depending on how well you stack up against someone else. You may feel good when you seem ahead, but the moment someone else rises, doubt creeps in. That's not confidence. That's insecurity in disguise. But when you stop comparing and start accepting yourself, truly and completely, you begin to develop something unshakable. You no longer need to prove your worth, because you already know it. You no longer feel threatened by someone else's success, because it doesn't take anything away from your own. And you no longer rely on being better than to feel whole, because you've embraced the truth that you are already enough. Self-acceptance means looking at yourself, your story, your scars, your strengths, your setbacks, and saying, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm still becoming. It means understanding that you're a work in progress, and that's okay. You don't have to be perfect to be valuable. You don't have to reach a certain level to be respected. You deserve love, respect, and peace, right now as you are. This kind of inner confidence is powerful. It allows you to walk into rooms without shrinking, even if others seem more accomplished. It allows you to try new things without fear of failure, because your self-worth isn't tied to the outcome. And it allows you to support and uplift others, because their light doesn't dim yours. The most confident people you'll ever meet aren't the loudest or the flashiest. They're the ones who are deeply rooted in who they are. They've made peace with their imperfections. They know their value doesn't change based on external comparisons. And they radiate something real, not ego, but self-respect. So if you want to build lasting confidence, start with this. Stop comparing and start connecting with your own truth, your own journey, your own growth. The more you learn to stand fully in your own skin, the less you'll feel the need to compete or compare. And in that space of self-acceptance, confidence blooms naturally, quiet, strong, and unshakable.